6 HRCI exams in 3 days. Why? Why would anybody do such a thing? Well, let me tell you who I am and why I did that. My name is David Siler. I am the managing partner here at Distinctive Human Resources and also the principal architect of the Distinctive HR Certification Preparation Learning System. Well, normally I recertify by testing every time to validate our materials against the content that we find on the exams. But normally I spread it out over weeks and months. This time my staff challenged me, bullied me to take the exams in 3 days. And it was actually a pretty good experience in regards to, by the way, I did pass them all, and not only did I pass them all, posted really solid scores using our learning system. And again, validating our content, how it matches up to the actual exams. And it was a good experience. I mean, it was a tiring experience. It was a fatiguing experience. But I'm glad it's over with now. I don't recommend anybody else do this. So that all said, what did I learn? Let's jump into that. So on day one, I took the SPHR exam in the morning and the PHR exam in the afternoon. I wanted to get the hardest over with, and SPHR is really tough. So 2 tests in 1 day really fried my brain. And it set me up to really struggle through day 2 and day 3. But regardless, this is one of those situations where the videos you sometimes watch come with a cautionary tale and say, don't try this at home, leave this to the experts. Well, to me, the SPHR is the king of all credentials in the HR field. It's the one held in the highest regard. It's the one, in my opinion, that comes with the greatest respect. It's tough. The exam is tough, but it's fair. It targets HR leaders. There's lots of decision making, and you must be able to apply critical thinking. One of our preparation tools that we use, that I've written, is something called the 7 Princes. And these are principles of human resource management that are found throughout most of these exams. And I'm going to talk about the Princes throughout each of the exams that we took, except the aPHR. None of the Princes are on there. It is a secret sauce to helping you pass your exam. It is something that will aid you with the toughest, the meanest, the nastiest questions that you'll face on the exam. And I used those 7 principles on those 7 Princes on the SPHR exam to answer easily more than half of the questions on the test. Most people won't recognize them because they're so well camouflaged, but I mean, I wrote the book, so I did recognize them. It was a lifesaver, and it makes things a lot easier. Applying the Princes and using our other prep materials, I'm happy to say that it allowed me to easily pass the SPHR. Then next up that afternoon, the PHR. And the PHR exam is much more straightforward than the SPHR, but it is still a beast. More objective than the SPHR, aims at HR practitioners, individual contributors. The 7 Princes was still the most important asset to help me pass. Using those approaches, I probably applied the Princes on 30 to 40% of the questions on the test there. And our materials helped with the other 60, 70% of the test. They were flawless, as evidenced by the scores that I posted. Now, I'll tell you, I've been doing this for decades. I've never seen scores like that, even from me. And I'm sorry, it sounds like I'm bragging, but I am. Using our system helped me achieve these kind of scores, which is unprecedented. Then we move into day 2. And day 2 are the I's, the SPHRi and the PHRi. And I stands for international, is what it's supposed to stand for. I kind of think these exams are a bit of a waste. I don't understand why HRCI has these so-called international exams when they already have the GPHR. Few people hold these certifications. Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, the I's are simply the SPHR exam content and the PHR exam content without any questions from the United States, none of the US-based laws. So it's really not a lot of international content. I had a few questions on there, but it's mostly just generic HR. To me, the I's are easier than the normal regular SPHR and PHR. Then moving on that afternoon, I took the PHRi. And I'm going to tell you, by the afternoon of the second day, after having completed 3 exams, mental fatigue, brain fog, I was just exhausted mentally. But I pushed through. I kept true to the practices that we teach. The 7 princes were still a difference maker. And you can see from my scores that I still posted very solid scores on the PHRi. Now, by day 3, I was definitely tired. It was hard to hold focus and concentration. No fun at all. And it showed my scores too a bit. But it started, I was just trying to get done at that point. I was rushing. I was like, get me out of here. Anyway, all started with an extremely vicious exam, tough exam, yet a very valuable certification, the GPHR. And I love this certification personally. And it's a shame that only about 2,500 professionals, HR professionals, hold this certification, especially when you consider the highest paying specialty in the HR field is global HR. Due to my brain fog, this one was the hardest for me. I struggled. I was slower processing these. Again, I don't recommend anybody else do this. Anyway, the long story short is the princes, still the 7 princes, help me do well, perform at my optimal level, and another convincing pass was posted. Then we finally get to the supposedly easiest exam, and that's the aPHR. This is the entry-level assessment for those new to the HR field. It should have been the easiest, but it kicked my rear. I was mentally exhausted, hard to stay motivated, mind was wandering, low energy, just wanted it over with. Thus, I rushed it. I should not have missed a single question on that exam. There's no princes on there. There's no strategy. This one's all about facts and it's all objective. The other tests, the other 5 that I'd taken before that, you needed the princes. You need to be able to apply critical thinking, discretion and judgment, be a troubleshooter, but not on this one. So finally, I was done with all of them, passed all 6 of them. Now we get down to what are my observations? And one of my observations is and this is a common question that I get when we're teaching our classes, and that is, what's the difference between the HRCI exams and the SHRM exams? And while the test formats are slightly different, it's still HR, hiring, firing, promotion, discharge, training, paying, rewarding. I believe the HRCI exam, my personal opinion, HRCI exams are a truer test of HR competencies. Frankly, I think the SHRM exams are more subjective and thus more difficult, as evidenced by the lower pass rates for like the SHRM SCP that you're seeing right now over the last several years. I mean, it's hard as a content creator, content provider to develop materials for the SHRM exams, even though we think we've got some of the best on the planet. Due to all the vagueness and idiosyncrasies of the content, it just seems like it's an opinion-based exam to a large extent. Regardless, I found the princes still helped me on the SHRM exams and still was the secret sauce to helping post good scores. Even though I did not take them this past week, I did take the SHRM, both the CP and the SCP last year. So I've got that frame of comparison to be able to compare the two in regards to each other. The purpose of me taking this many tests this quickly was to check and verify that our cert prep materials are validated to the content of the exams. And in my opinion, we clearly demonstrated that we're on point. There was nothing on those exams that threw me. I knew everything. We covered all the content in our program, in our materials. So anyone who is motivated, and you got to be motivated to get certified, any motivated individual using the DHR, the distinctive HR cert prep materials, it's going to help you a lot. And the Princes especially was the biggest tool, learning tool, assessment tool that I used to help me navigate through the difficulty and the challenge of those tests. And they are. They're ridiculously mean and challenging, but you're only going to try to do one, maybe two, but not many people are trying to do 6 in a 3-day period. Regardless, hope we can work with you at some point in the future, and good luck on your journey towards certification.